you start to get a little momentum and start to, okay, I'm slammed and this other person's slammed. So, maybe we can hire another like super part-time contractor or freelancer. Right. And so it's kind of, I think it evolves over time. The other thing I was going to say as far as like, what has helped growth is I think there is so much truth to the expression of hire good people and get out of the way. And so that has been a huge part of our growth is we've hired like really, really great people, set them up for success, incentivize them in terms of comp structure, but also provided a great culture where they can thrive and they can be successful. And so we've been really intentional to create that type of company and that type of culture where you're not just doing a job, but you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself. It's a great company culture that you want to be a part of, that that you're making a difference, that that the team around you cares, that you're working with other high caliber, high capacity people. That has really made a big difference where I don't micromanage people. I don't want to micromanage people. I don't want to babysit people. And I know that if the whole company is dependent on me, then there's a bottleneck there. There's just a limit, a cap, a ceiling to what we can grow to. And so I know one of the best things that I can personally do as the founder, as the CEO, in order for us to continue to grow is just to get out of the way and really allow people to do what they do well versus just trying to babysit and micromanage them.
I love that. And I mean, with the way you've scaled the business, with doing all the speaking gigs that you do, you run your podcast, you write books, you also have a family, right? And so, one of the things you mentioned was building a business that supports your life, right? Not the other way around. And so I'm curious to get a little bit more on the personal side. How do you structure your business and make sure that it doesn't invade in your personal life, or that sometimes does that fail, or how does that process look like for somebody who wants to scale the business or maybe has scaled their business but at the expense of their personal life? How have you navigated that more gracefully?
Yeah, good question. So for context, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. When we started dating, I was 15, she was 17. So I married myself a cougar. And we've been together for 25 years now. Been married for 20 years. We've got 3 beautiful daughters. So it's me and a house full of women. It's the absolute best. And so one, I think kind of like guiding principle for me personally is I really believe that who you are is more important than what you do. Who you are is more important than what you do. Meaning, if I'm a great speaker, if I'm a great entrepreneur, if I'm a great podcaster, if I'm a great business owner, if I'm a great fill in the blank, but I'm dropping the ball as a husband, as a dad, as a son, if I'm a crappy friend, if I'm a shell of a human being, I'm doing it wrong. And so the most important roles in my world are being a good husband and being a good dad. I got one shot at those things. And so those are the things that are big priorities. Now, again, those are the things that sounds nice. That sounds fluffy. It sounds really, really pretty and cute on a podcast. But how do you actually live that out? But I think even before getting to living that out, like, again, it's one thing to say, it's another thing to be like, no, but you actually believe that, like, to the core of like who you are. And so that helps then inform and determine a lot about, decisions that you make. And so there are people I know that have like, I will build my business at all costs. And regardless of what happens to family or relationships or whatever, it's just like, that's just not worth it. Like it. And so I really want to make sure that I've got my priorities legitimately straight and that my decision making, reflects that. So I'll give you one example. From the beginning, we've always been a virtual company, and in large part because I want to be home. Like I want to be around my family, and so I work from home. My wife homeschools our girls, and so we on one hand, like we're all together all the time, and on the negative side, like we're all together all the time, right? So we can step on each other's toes from time to time, but I get a lot of time with my family, a lot of intentionality with that. We take a lot of trips and experiences, and just are intentional about spending time together. I'm super intentional on my relationship with my wife, and so her and I are a couple things that we do. We do a weekly date. I got back from a trip late yesterday afternoon, and her and I went out for a quick date last night just to run a couple quick errands, right? Just to get some quality time, just to kind of catch up, just the two of us. We'll go on a date this weekend, and just the two of us, just to get away from the kids. We do a couple of trips each year, just the two of us just to get that time together. And so I remind my daughters all the time, like, that one of the best ways that I can be a good dad is to be a good husband, is to really love their mom, and make sure that the girls know that I love their mom. So those things have been, especially helpful in terms of just, again, intentionality. Now, again, that doesn't mean that I'm perfect. That doesn't mean that there are times where like things from a schedule wise are out of whack. One question is just kind of a litmus test that I like to ask is when things are really busy or things are kind of overwhelming. I like to think through, is this a season or is this the way it is? Is this a season or is this the way it is? Meaning, life in general, business always has seasons, and there are seasons that are just busier than others. So if you're in retail, for example, the holidays are just busy. It's just busier than other times. If you are an accountant, tax time, April, it's just busy, right? And now it's important that you look at it and just kind of analyze, like, okay, is it always like this, or is this just a season? Because if it's just a season, I can ride that out. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Hang with me for a couple of weeks, and then we're going to be back to normal. But if it's just like I'm always slammed or I'm always underwater and I don't see any end in sight, like that's not good. That's not healthy. And so look and just kind of analyze and reflect on, is this a season or is this the way that it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. I was just gonna say, I mean, to prioritize that much time with your wife and like be able to even take trips away from like a private trip, that seems like what some people do like once a decade, right? And you're doing it a couple times a year. I just think that that's so cool. So I just wanted to double click on that because I think so often in a relationship, it's like you kind of want the kids around, and it kind of keeps you busy, and it kind of distracts you from maybe not, having a great relationship with your spouse. And there's always somewhere to go, somewhere to be. Making sure the kids are taken care of, and just that private time with your wife, whether it's date night or taking a trip.
Yeah, and
so
like
cool.
two quick thoughts on that one. Like as far as like the trips go, is there are times where like my girls are like, wait a minute, you and mom are going on a trip. Like, why don't we get to go? I was like, because eventually you're gonna move out, and I need mom to still like me. So.
Right.
I want to make sure that we maintain that relationship. But then also, I think, again, going back to what I was talking about, of one of the best ways I can be a good dad to them is being a good husband to their mother, and just making sure that I'm loving her. And so, and also recognizing that, like, I love my daughters, I adore my girls, but my first priority is to my wife. And so I've told the girls, jokingly and lovingly, of just like, oh, I love all of you, but I love mom the most, and letting them know that, like, again, like I adore mom. I love mom. I'm crazy about mom. And so that's why, her and I are going to do, some trips. And also just like why I want us to be able to demonstrate a great marriage to our girls. So my wife and I, both of our parents split up when we were growing up. And so, we didn't, unfortunately didn't have great examples of like, dang, like those people still really like each other after a long time. And so I want us to be that to our children. There's a guy that I know who recently got married, and his parents have a great marriage. And he said something at the wedding to the effect of, part of what made me excited about getting married is I saw how good it could be because of my parents' example. Right. And I want to be that for our girls. And so I think that, hopefully we've done that and can continue to do that in the future.
Yeah. You struck a few curiosities for me, Grant, because you created these boundaries essentially around your relationship, working from home, like separation between business, and family. You created boundaries between your girls and your wife with Sheila. And it's like, where my two-part question is, number one is, at what point were you like, I got to create these boundaries because I don't have them already kind of crafted, and I saw there was like some pain and consequences, and that's maybe I'm assuming that's why the boundaries are put in place. And or part two, if you didn't see it being demonstrated from your parents, like where did you witness this could exist? Like I could create these boundaries in my life, and I could create freedoms and travel and business success and all these wins. Like if it wasn't demonstrated by your parents, where did you experience it and see it's possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. There have been there's been a few couples that either I know personally or have watched at a distance that seem like they've had a good marriage, and they've just been super intentional on their marriage and their relationship. I don't know if it was probably partly that because my wife and I came from families that split up, that were like, okay, we don't want to experience that selfishly for ourselves, and we don't want to put our kids through that, having been a kid of that, and it just sucks. And so going, okay, we don't want to experience that. We don't want our kids to experience that. So what do we need to do to create the best possible marriage? So I think there's just been some intentionality around that. I think I think one thing that we have just tried to do all along is like we really value just having intentionality in life, and having an intentional direction. And so